YouTube, and welcome to Musicology for the People. Have you ever heard of aleatoric music? How about chance music? It's okay if you haven't, it's just one of the most awesome things to happen to classical music in the 20th century. Here's the deal. Chance, or aleatoric music, is literally music with some element of it left up to chance. Aleatoric actually comes from the Latin word alea, which means dice. And there are actually some pieces out there where in order to perform it the way it's supposed to be performed, you have to roll some dice in order to figure out what exactly it is you're performing. To say that aleatoric music started in the 20th century isn't really fair. There have even been precedents since the Renaissance period, like with Johannes Ockegham's Missa cuius vis toni, or the Mass in any mode. Basically, this piece could be sung in either Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, or Mixolydian modes. I have explained modes before on this channel, but if you missed those explanations, then here's a brief one for you. Modes basically refer to a scale that starts on a specific scale degree. So say you're in C major, which is a more modern type of scale. Your notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But say you wanted to go in Dorian mode. A Dorian mode starting on D would be the equivalent of a C major scale, only you shift it up a note and you go from D to D. Phrygian goes from E to E, Lydian goes from F to F, and Mixolydian goes from G to G. Basically, this piece sounds completely different based on which mode you choose to perform it in. We also get something called the Musicologist Spiel, which was popular in the 18th and 19th centuries, mainly in Germany. Basically, you would roll dice in order to determine the order in which measures of music would be performed. There was even a Würfelspiel written by Mozart, supposedly. But chance music really came about in the early 20th century with composers Charles Ives and Henry Cowell. From America, it spread to Latin America with composers like Alan Hovhaness, and it spread to Europe with Karl-Heinz Stockhausen and Witold Ruswalski. The biggest name in chance music, however, is John Cage. Cage wrote his Music of Changes for solo piano in 1951. It was the first instrumental piece to ever be entirely derived by chance. For this piece, Cage used the I Ching, a Chinese text commonly used for divination, in order to determine the numbers that he would use for the setting of this piece. However, this piece is fixed, or in other words, every performance of it is the same. He didn't leave anything up to chance based on each individual performance. But there are other types of chance music that change for each performance. For example, in Stockhausen's Klavierstück 11, a performer is given 19 blocks of music and he basically is just supposed to choose whatever order he wants to play them in. Another way that chance music is left up to chance for each performance is by the use of sound blocks. Used mainly for a textural type composition, composers of orchestral or choral works basically just write out a block instead of individual notes, and performers are just supposed to choose a pitch somewhere within that block and sing it or play it. A good example of that is Penderecki's Threnody to the Victims of Hiroshima, which looks something like this. As you can tell, it'd be pretty difficult to pick out one pitch that you're supposed to play. A third kind of chance music involves graphic scores, such as this one by Earl Brown, titled December 1952. As you can see, it is impossible to figure out what the exact rhythms or pitches are supposed to be. So essentially, each performer of this piece looks at it, determines what they think everything means, and then gives it their best shot. It also makes great art. I wouldn't mind getting it framed. A final type of aleatoric music is mobile form. In this compositional style, composers write different blocks or mobiles of music, and then the actual performance of these mobiles is really up to each performer. My favorite example of this is a piece called In C by Terry Riley. With this piece, Riley wrote 53 short musical phrases which can last anywhere between a half of a beat and 32 beats. Each phrase can be played an indeterminate amount of times, and each performer has complete control over the phrase that he or she plays. There can also be any number of performers performing this piece. The original recording has 11 performers, but there was also a performance at Disney Hall with over 120 players. Performances can also last between 15 minutes and several hours. It's a very cool piece, and we have been listening to it during this video. Interestingly enough, a place that you might have encountered chance music without even realizing it is in video games. In this instance, there is usually a background composition of music that just plays during your playtime. But on top of that are musical pitches or phrases that are added in depending on what the player does in the game. Therefore, no audio experience is ever the same when playing a video game. Of course, people don't usually play video games in order to create their own unique audio experience, but you know, it still happens. As you can tell, chance music is an entirely different take on what it means to create music. I feel like every time a composer creates a piece of aleatoric music, it's like the ultimate exercise in giving up control. I hope you learned something new about chance music and that you are maybe inspired to go and listen to some yourself or even to try and perform some chance music. It's a blast. As usual, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Until the next week, may the odds be ever in your favor. Just kidding. In chance music, the odds are always in your favor. Musicology.